The following podcast is an enticing media production.
Where the Nell have you been? Join us for conversation about life, business, and everything in between. Welcome to What the Nell, where we've got stories to tell. Here's your host, Nell Tice.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another brand new episode of the What the Nell podcast with yours truly, Nell Tice. I'm super excited. I know I always say that, and you guys are probably sick of it by now, but get used to it because I'm always excited to welcome another amazing guest to the What the Nell podcast. This time, my guest is somebody I've known for a little while now, a local business owner in the central Pennsylvania area. And his name is John Ellis. He is a seasoned entrepreneur and a business coach with over 2 decades of experience leading entrepreneurs and small businesses in their marketing and strategic endeavors. As co-owner of Create Socially and Romeo Network, he is the creative guru behind several local emerging brands. He holds a bachelor's in biblical studies as well as a master's in leadership studies from Lancaster Bible College. Woo, John, welcome to the What the Nell podcast.
You know, the bio is always so fantastic sounding, but you know, it's humbling to hear the background that I have, all the things that I've done. But as you've probably experienced with other entrepreneurs who sound fancy, they will tell you, I'm just learning. I'm just learning as I go. And the more you learn, the more you realize there's still more to learn. But thank you for the great introduction.
Absolutely. Well, you know, we are all very multifaceted, especially as entrepreneurs, but you're absolutely right. The more that you learn, the more there is to learn. And I think the more you want to learn too.
Yes.
Speaking of wanting to learn, so I'd love to learn more about what is Create Socially and what is Romeo Network? I know Romeo Network is a little bit on the newer side of things for you. So tell us about the two separate entities. What's all of that about?
Sure. Well, as we mentioned before we were teeing up, I wanted to start out with Create Socially and dovetail it into what's led to a great relationship with Romeo Network, which my wife Sarah and I now are the owners of. But we got our start this next month, actually, will be 12 years. So if you're listening,
congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. If you're listening, today is the 19th of July. Maybe you're listening 3 years from now. But that's July of 2024 will be our 12-year anniversary with Create Socially. So we've done a lot of learning during that period of time, as you can imagine. When I first began launching the brand, I just wanted to make cool-looking websites for people and find qualified partners to do that and enhance services for small businesses. What I found pretty quickly, though, was that I ended up doing some kind of personal or professional development at what I would say is an amateur level. But let's say it was you, Nell. We would start talking about how you just can't find time in your calendar for things, even though we're supposed to be discussing logo colors. And I would give you a podcast that I found, or I'd give you some helpful tidbits just because I try to help people where they find need. It seemed the need for business owners was always greater when it came to what's behind the brand, if you will, than for the brand itself, albeit, as you can tell with the businesses my wife and I own, we have a bias for both. In my mind, they're really the same thing now. There is no difference between marketing and professional development. Now, what do I mean when I say that? When you think of media and marketing and branding, and you think of what I learned in terms of the simplest possible way during my time at Lancaster Bible College to boil it down when it comes to leadership, like what is leadership? It's the art of influence. Well, there's a whole lot of similarity between marketing and influence. So now if I'm trying to get you to work out 5 times a week and I keep on giving you this plan and you're not following it, well, then I'm not effectively leading you. I haven't actually influenced you yet because you're not doing anything. I might be sending you a direction or meaning well, but until I figure out how to meet you where you're at, create a plan that matches and synergizes with your lifestyle, the things that you are motivated by and your goals, then you're not going to take action.
Right.
One of our favorite things to talk about over at Romeo Network is the 4 things that people buy. So maybe grab a pen if you're listening, and then check us out at romeonetwork.com for more, like seriously.
Yeah.
But every time somebody buys something, they want to either save time, save money, avoid pleasure, avoid pain or gain pleasure, and they also are looking for convenience and peace of mind.
Sure.
Now, the reason I mentioned that is because typically every time we do marketing, we are marketing with one of those messages, whether we realize it or not. Do business with me because it's convenient. I have a really easy form to fill out for the discovery process, and I have lots of testimonials from existing customers. Why am I telling you that now? Because I want to give you peace of mind. I want you to be confident. Why do we do online reviews? Because we want to create peace of mind. So I'm just trying to create some real-world demonstrations of where the two are like on a collision course to being the same thing for us at Create Socially.
Yeah.
So when we look to serve our ideal client, they have that frame of mind going into it where we can help them get to it, where they see a whole brand experience involves not only what things look like, how they appear, how they sound, but what happens behind the scenes with those running the business.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you mentioned behind the scenes. I mean, the reviews and the testimonials, there's always a place for that. And that's one version of the marketing. And when you take it a step further, and this is why I love podcasting so much, because people truly do business with you as the brand. And as we were talking about before we started recording, they're not doing business with the logo.
Right.
So you're diving deeper and you're hearing the conversations, you're hearing the way that people speak, and you might even find out that, through a podcast that maybe you're a big Star Wars fan or something like that. And if I'm out there looking for a coach or somebody to do my website, I love I've never actually seen a movie. Don't hold that against me. But maybe I love Star Wars and I'm instantly connected now or interested. And that leads me to wanting to know more. So what, beyond like the testimonials and the reviews, what can you tell me about different marketing types and styles and things like that? What do you think are some of the most effective ways of marketing?
Well, I'll use another play from we have a Sales Academy course that we take people who, obviously the title is Sales Academy. They want to be better at sales. And you'll hear me do this a lot because, again, they're the same for me. But the slogan is, in order to really enhance your sales ability, become one with your customer. If I'm working with enTICEingmedia, for example, I am Nell Tice. When I am helping you craft a blog, or whether I'm helping you onboard the next podcast candidate, I'm thinking, okay, what would Nell do? And the reason that's important to answer your question is that's how the brand should be approached as well. You get laser focused on who your ideal customer is, not who your just kind of okay customer is, but when you really focus in on that niche, and we're doing the same thing at Romeo Network right now as I speak, by the way, is looking at our customer base for the last 25 years, thinking about who our best customers have been and how to get more of them. They're going to end up falling into a certain type of niche or category. And then we want to become one with that niche, if you will, so that when we do our marketing campaigns, we find a message that resonates with the audience we want to reach. Because then we can serve them better as well. If I found the right person, then I can give them the right tools and tactics to help them grow their business. Sure,
that makes a total amount of sense. How do you handle, so for instance, and I know a lot of entrepreneurs get this bug, the serial entrepreneurism, I'm guilty of it. In my first year in business, I was like, ooh, this is a cool opportunity. Ooh, let's do this. I want to own all of the businesses. And I realized now I needed to rein myself in then and really hone in on what I was actually, my original goals. But past that, when you are a seasoned entrepreneur and you are involved in multiple businesses and they might not be in the same niche, how do you handle somebody? So I'm one person. Right. But I have multiple brands. How do you handle marketing from that standpoint when you have different interests and different businesses in so many different realms?
Well, I'd say it's a matter of dividing and conquering, if you will. So you isolate it, in this case, into what I would say a proper silo, because usually silos are a dirty word, right? When you're talking about, teamwork, you don't want silos. You want a good flow of communication. In this case, if someone has multiple businesses, and my wife and I are a great example of that, actually. Most of our businesses are more of a side hustle. We have a spare room. We Airbnb it. My wife is a birth doula, so check out birthbabes.com.
Oh, wow.
You're pregnant, go check that out. A small emerging brand we threw together on our 10-year anniversary in Oregon.
Cool.
That's what you do when you're an entrepreneur couple.
That's exactly what you do.
Yeah, you can relate probably in some capacity now. But there has to be a focus for each thing, right? You'll notice maybe there is some overlap. Like, for example, I'll use Birth Babes as a way to answer your question, because as we've developed the Birth Babes brand on the side, I've noticed it's like a crazy amount of leads that my wife gets while doing pretty much nothing. Like, no social media, no social media, no emails, nothing. That's pretty rare, right? Now you are in marketing, and you would realize, like, if you don't do anything to promote enTICEingmedia, you're probably not going to get any leads.
Right.
But the reason is because there's a vacuum in York County and the surrounding area for doulas. Lancaster's a little different story, but when it comes to York County proper, there might be like 4 doulas, and the others, they might have kind of a half set up Facebook page and a Google business that's not verified, and maybe a Wix website that doesn't even have an actual domain name. It's like, help me have your baby.wix.com, and it's just, it's not congruent, right? And the reason I bring it up is we've had success with Birth Babes in part because of the vacuum, but also because we did create a congruent brand. We created a nice, compelling logo. We did all the things that I was talking about are important with the brand side of things. But when I am in Create Socially or Romeo Network land, I'm not in Birth Babes land.
Right.
That's a project for another day and another time, because if I'm aiming at all these targets at the same time, it's not going to go well. You have to be able to isolate and prioritize. And frankly, I think you should pick like your favorite thing and make that the priority most of the time. Because we serial entrepreneurs can become guilty of saying, I want to do all the things all the time. And we all know the phrase jack of all trades is typically not flattering. You don't want to hire a jack of all trades to do your tattoo, that kind of thing.
Right.
You want to hire an expert. Well, you don't become an expert aiming at 12 different targets all the time. That's not how you become a sharpshooter, or a master craftsman of anything.
Sure.
Now that I've been a little long-winded, but this gets me going now. So,
this is a podcast. You're supposed to be long-winded.
you have to aim at one target at a time and really get specific with what your goals are for that particular area. And to be fair, I've been thinking about this a lot more in the last couple of weeks for myself, quite literally, as I've done some, and you got to do some self-analysis too, that's what I'm mentioning right now, is stepping back from your own situation, hopefully with the help of some coaches or consultants or just good friends who will help you see your blind spots and say, okay, how do I retool this? How do I rethink this? If I look at the last 90 days, where are my blind spots? Where are the things that haven't gone as I thought they would go? Man, I was planning on taking enTICEingmedia global, and I'm still in the same town. What's going on? And then evaluating, okay, what did I do? What did I not do? What were my competing interests? And then choose your priorities accordingly.
Yeah, that's some great advice. How do you, and you mentioned your wife's, the doula business, and that is, to me, a very, very specific niche.
Yes.
And when we're thinking in terms of niching down, and I know this is very common for YouTube, especially if you're a business on YouTube or you're a creator on YouTube, the more you niche down, the better chance, and followings are very loyal. You have to get in front of the right people, but the more you can niche down, the better chances you have of being more successful on a platform like that because of that. So would you agree, in the marketing realm in general, the more that you niche down, the more chance of success you'll have?
Absolutely. And I'll use, because with Romeo Network, in some areas, we are able to sort of be our own consultants, but I will tell you in most areas that's not the case.
Ooh, okay.
We've partnered with other marketers, other coaches to help us see, like I was talking about, help us see our blind spots, help us create strategies that we maybe can't come up with on our own. The other day I was just last night actually, reading a blog about, they call it Founder's Vision, which is where you have this really cool idea, you know exactly what it needs to be and how it needs to work, but it's hard to describe it to somebody else because it's just Founder's Vision. It's like,
oh, that makes so much sense.
Me, I can't describe it in 3 sentences. I need to write you a 5-page paper, but it's amazing. Trust me, read the whole thing.
You're describing like everything. I sounds all so familiar.
So, but when it comes to our sales academy, for example, typically most of our clients who take this, it's a 5-week course, by the way. So it's 5 weeks, 3 hours a week. It's basically, think of like a mini master college class. If you've ever been to school and taken like a kind of a sprint class over a winter break or over the summer, where instead of 12 weeks, it's 6 weeks. It's the same kind of idea, but less homework, I promise. It's like a college class in terms of the cadence and the timing of it.
Got it.
But typically, when we look at the content and the course and what the last 25 years have shown us, it's that the average entrepreneur who takes the Sales Academy course and applies what's taught in week 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, eventually, throughout the course of that 5-week class, they will have made a sale of significance.
Okay.
And they will have made a sale more than they would have made had they not taken the Sales Academy.
Right.
And the reason that's relevant is now, it's around $1,500 for a Sales Academy seat. What would I want to do that would just make my client really happy if they're one of my students? Well, I want to get their money back, their ROI, before they finish the class.
Yeah.
How do I do that? Well, I target my ideal candidate for the Sales Academy. In this case, we have decided it's going to be people who sell a high-ticket item. It's not, a cafe. I love cafes, but a cafe
Nothing wrong with them.
who wants to sell more cups of coffee, depending on their niche, their flow of traffic, how many people come in the door, it may take a while for them to see that ROI. They'll see it, but I want someone to be able to get a big, quick ROI as much as possible, and then to be able to compound that throughout the rest of their sales career using the tactics we have taught them.
Amazing.
So it's still kind of in beta, if you will. Remember, as you know, Nell, and if you're listening, again, it's the middle of summer in 2024. My wife and I just acquired this business in January, but we purchased it because it was 25 years of really great, solid data that we could use to help entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
But like any business, we're going to do some tweaking. We don't want to get rid of the whole thing, or we just might as well have kept our money.
Right.
But we're going to see, okay, with these tools, how does it apply and fit for us? Who is a great target market that we think will get the most out of it? It's just an example now, hopefully, of how we're doing some assessment of a program that we're part of, a goal that we have, which is to empower entrepreneurs and salespeople, in the case of our Sales Academy, to sell more effectively to their clients and hopefully serve them as well after the sale.
Yeah.
But it's just through analysis of, okay, who's the ideal candidate and what do they look like?
Right.
And then we're looking to get even more distilled with it and eventually target, probably we believe it's going to be something that pairs with service. So for maybe it's HVAC equipment, for example.
Okay.
If it's an entrepreneur that sells HVAC equipment or roofing systems, especially the HVAC or maybe electric panels. Why? Because not only do I install it in your house, I provide you an ongoing service after that. Quarterly checkups, maintenance calls, maybe a warranty program.
Right.
So that marries into the service classes that we offer as well. It allows us to better help them, once they've made the sale, help them come through on the promise that they made to their customer, whatever it was.
Sure. I
And
love
all
that.
of this we're just unpacking over the last 8 months. And it's not information I could have told you. These are our goals in fall of 2023, because I hadn't been through the journey of learning it and applying yet.
Right, right. I mean, it's called evolving or evolution for a reason.
Right.
And I did want to talk about that too, because I know that Romeo Network is is virtually brand new for you. Take us through that journey. What is it like acquiring a new business that has been successful, and take us through that? I mean, not only was it obviously a financial investment, but it was investment of more of your time and emotional investment. Take
Very
us
much.
through that journey and how that has affected you.
Sure. I can't remember the author right now, but they call it a BHAG, a big, hairy, audacious goal.
Yes, yeah.
They tell us to set them for ourselves. And you hear, if you're in listen to 4 more podcasts like this, you'll probably hear someone talk about a BHAG at some point.
Yeah.
Because people can relate to it. Like, okay, I have this big, hairy, audacious goal. And then you got to sort of boil it down and break it down into manageable steps, or you just aren't going to ever reach that goal. I bring that up because acquiring Romeo Network was in many ways a BHAG for us.
Yeah.
Because I mentioned having had Create Socially now coming up for almost 12 years, and the trend that I noticed with, okay, I want to truly help entrepreneurs in, I'll use the phrase now because it's a great time to bring it up, in a holistic way. I don't just want them to have a really compelling brand and a great website with easy checkout. I want them to be able to follow through on what they have provided to their client, whether it's a one-time or an ongoing transaction. And I have found a lot of business owners, myself included, if I'm not careful, I can get so, especially as a small business owner, I can get so sucked into working on the business that I'm forgetting to A, work on myself, and B, and I said that backwards. I meant to say in
the business,
right?
not
I'm
on
so
the business.
busy
Yes.
working in the business.
Spot that.
Yeah, working in the business that I forget to work on myself and on my business.
Right.
And the reason that comes into play is that's what was on my mind is, okay, how do I find something that doesn't necessarily replace what I'm doing at Create Socially, but enhances it, makes it a little more holistic experience so that the people I'm helping grow their business can also grow themselves, quite literally. Like growth, it's not a one-shot, one-kill type of thing when you're in business. You need to grow your product and your offering, you need to grow yourself, and those around you are helping you with it. Because obviously every solopreneur, if it's the right kind of model, most of the time as the business grows eventually it's not just them. It's them and a couple subcontractors, eventually maybe them and a couple employees. And typically, by the way, I mentioned our ideal client as I explain this journey a little bit, because our ideal client has been in the Create Socially world for about a decade, approximately. It could be a different time frame, but they've had enough business come in where they've hired enough people or worked with enough subcontractors. They've realized they've kind of hit a little bit of a ceiling. And I know you talked a couple of weeks ago with Paul Schiffbauer. I'll use him as an example. He's a great marketing companion, if you will. I'd gladly partner up with him on any project.
Yeah.
But his ideal client's a lot like mine in terms of, you're making around $1 million a year and you're kind of at ceiling.
Yeah.
And you realize I'm not going to get across or above that ceiling unless I make some changes and bring in some extra help so I can better enhance what I'm doing.
Right. Right.
And then that's where we found, okay, I met Dave Romeo. If you don't know Dave Romeo or Romeo Network before listening to this podcast, he created Dave Romeo Seminars and Coaching 25 years ago prior to retiring in December of 2023. When I met Dave, it was about 4 years ago from today. And eventually he sold me on helping him make some edits on his website. At the time, it was this really ridiculous website called Statamic. Google it. If you're not a programmer, you'll get really confused.
Sounds familiar.
It's mainly for programmers, but we limped along with that for a year. And then after that, in the midst of it too, I ended up helping him to get through COVID in the middle of that whole project as well. Because Dave, old school entrepreneur that he was, every seminar was held in a hotel with people, and that was the only way.
Yes.
Not going to work too well during COVID. So subsequently, I had just started learning Zoom 3.5 years ago. It was a brand new idea to me, really. We just went, one of my favorite phrases I've learned from Dave is ready, fire, aim. that's what we did with Zoom, and we just learned as we went. And I'm sharing all this because this is all what led up to us eventually being asked by Dave, hey, I'd like you to purchase my business. I think you'd be great to take it over. Mm-hmm. He had a history in New York prior to moving to Pennsylvania of running world-class bass fishing tournaments. Unfortunately, when he moved to Pennsylvania, he has a Guinness World Record for bass fishing, actually.
Oh, that's amazing. I did not know that.
You Google Dave Romeo and bass fishing, you can read all about it.
That's super cool.
But I bring that up because what happened with the bass tournaments, unfortunately, when Dave moved to Pennsylvania, he left it in the hands of a few other individuals who were really excited about carrying it on. One, they just didn't do anything. It just kind of fizzled out. He said, I don't want the same thing to happen to my business that happened in New York. I'm looking to leave it in some capable hands. I'll help you, but would you be interested in taking my business over after I retire? And Sarah and I, after about a year of prayer and just thinking, are we going to take a leap off this cliff or not? It's what we want to do. We looked at the whole entire package and thought, you know what, we will find a way to make this work because this checks a lot of boxes for us.
Yeah.
And we just kind of hit the ground running, so to speak, in January of this year and haven't looked back.
I love that. I love that. And you know, the buildup of the relationship too is a testament to, it's another side effect of marketing. It's the building of that relationship, and you don't know. I mean, and that's part of sales too. Everybody you talk to isn't going to be a sale.
Right.
And the more connections that you can make, you just don't know where they could lead. There are so many doors that could be opened and opportunities to be taken just simply by making the connection. And that's what, to me, that's what marketing's all about. It's not necessarily the sale, it's the connection. Right. Would you agree?
Yeah, because you don't have a sale without connection first. Going back to the original conversation about influence.
Yeah.
There again, influence and connection are really, they're synonyms of each other in so many ways.
They really are. And I have to tell you, personally, I'm not a salesperson. I don't like it. But I consider
Wait, you sold. I believe you. You can't sell. You got me. I'm buying. No, can't sell it.
That's so great. But it's funny because I consider myself, nobody's the best at the best. I mean, what is the best even? But I consider myself a marketer. And now that you're telling me about how they're one and the same, I'm thinking, well, maybe I actually am okay with sales because they're one and the same. So thank you for helping me come to that realization.
And I want to emphasize something here too, and this is something we talk about in our Sales Academy. Although I would say, by the way, if you're looking to learn about sales for the first time, please come see us at the Sales Academy. We'll make sure that you have your feet wet before we jump in. But our ideal candidate has probably been at it for a couple years, and they just want to improve what they're doing. They have some sales background.
Right.
We do have some other sales courses that'll help you get your feet wet in learning how to sell. We have a whole entire Psychology of Selling series, for example, which might be a great place to start, or a seminar literally titled Anyone Can Sell. We have that as well. So lots of things, which, by the way,
that's very cool.
If you want to know any of this stuff, you can also get it on demand at courses.romeonetwork.com and check out any of that content that you like.
That's great.
Hosted by Dave, literally in his studio. That was part of what we bought too, was every single seminar, over 100 of them, was recorded in the studio version by Dave that we have available on demand for those who aren't able to attend live.
That's a treat. That is a treat.
But I got to tell you now, sales, it's really the same thing. Instead of selling, just think of that first word or that first letter, make it a T. Make it telling. Because that's really all you're doing if you're an effective salesperson. You're finding out somebody has a problem, and you're telling them how you can help them, and bringing them into a solution that's going to meet their needs.
Yeah.
And that's
so
part
good.
of what marketing is. Marketing is saying, hey, you have a problem. I can help you. We should do business together.
Yeah.
I think more of us need to embrace the idea of selling, but first we have to adopt the identity that in order to effectively sell, you're just effectively solving problems. That's why literally on my business card for Romeo Network, it says problem solver in chief. Because it just gets people's attention right away. They're like, oh, that's kind of compelling. What is that? What do you mean?
Yeah.
And then I'm able to start helping them find ways that we can, get them to their goals.
I love that. I now, and obviously all of this information will be in the show notes, of course, but with the courses, and I know you have some events coming up too that you want to mention. I'm excited to be a part of one coming up in October. I know we still have some time before then, but you've got events before that. So can you tell us a little bit about those?
Yes. Depending on when you're listening to this, hopefully you don't need a time machine. August 8th feels like it's tomorrow, so that's why I say that.
Oh, yeah, it does.
Sure when we will release, but if you happen to be listening to this after August 8th, was when we had our mixer. But the good news is we do have them regularly. So our first mega mixer for August is going to be on August 8th.
Great.
Then we have another one on November 14th. And the best place to find out more information about our ongoing seminar events is literally just at romeonetwork.com/seminars. So we made it nice and easy for you.
Great.
I should mention, though, we also do have, since we've talked about it a couple times now, we have a Sales Academy course coming up. And I'm just looking at the calendar here myself to make sure I have it right for you. October 4th. So it's actually the day after, if I'm not mistaken, Nell. October 3rd is our Experts in Business Forum. And then the next day, we kick off our Sales Academy, which has a 5-week flow, and that's every Friday coming up this fall. We have our Sales Academy coming up.
That's great. That's fantastic. I'm really excited. Looking forward to especially the October 3rd event. But yes, this episode, so we're recording Friday, July 19th. This will come out on Monday, July 22nd. So we'll have time. So those people that are listening throughout the week can have the opportunity to attend the Mixer event on August 8th. So that is awesome. I love that. And so before we close out the episode, here at the What the Nell podcast, we have the tradition of the guest telling us a What the Nell story. So anything that happened, anything quirky, crazy, leaving the listener or viewer thinking, what the Nell just happened here, can be about the topic at hand or not. But just anything to remind us that, you know what, we're all human and we all have these quirky experiences and maybe don't take ourselves so seriously.
You know what, I will use one from, yesterday morning. So I like
recent, love it.
I just thought, I probably have like 5 What the Nell experiences from this week alone. If I think about it for 3 seconds, it'll be more organic if I just, pull it out of my rear, so to speak, in terms of like, really having it be What the Nell. So
I love it.
It's a funny story. I mentioned my wife and I have our Airbnb. We've had it. That's another thing. Who would have thought over a decade ago? And by the way, if you're not in central Pennsylvania, you want to know about how to start an Airbnb, side hustle style, reach out to Sarah or myself. We'd love to help you get set up and started. And by the way, if you are an Airbnb host and you've never invited someone else onto the platform, it just happened organically for Sarah and I. We had people start asking us, like, oh, how do you do that? Yeah. I mean, no one steals your stuff in your house every time they're in there. They don't, by the way. Airbnb we've probably made like $3,000 helping other people set up Airbnb and help them get started. Because Airbnb, depending on the area and the density of hosts, they'll throw $500-600 your way after they've hosted 5 or 6 people.
That's cool.
To expand. Do I want to do that with my neighbor? No, for obvious reasons. Right. But to that end, I have a couple What the Nell stories. I know we only have time for one. It has to do with some guests who are staying with us right now. Nobody knows who they are, so I don't mind sharing this. It's just kind of a funny thing that fits us, my wife and I, in terms of right now. Yeah. So I get up around 4:45 in the morning to do some morning devotions and get in a 30-minute, usually Apple Fitness workout, and kind of have some me time.
Yeah.
And so I get up at 4:45 the other day, and I look next to me. Typically, I see my wife sleeping soundly, but the bed it's empty. Sarah is not there in the bed. So my first instinct, of course, is where's Sarah? But also I'm like, well, I'm sure I'll figure it out soon enough. Let me just walk out into the hallway and mix up my supplements, do all the things I normally do in my morning routine.
Right.
And she is standing right outside our bedroom door, and she says, "You can't come any further. Do not come out."
What?
And my first instinct is like, what do you mean I can't come out? Like,
what's out there?
What the hell? You know? So after about maybe a minute, I realize, someone is in the bathroom and Sarah is waiting to use the bathroom. And I'm like, oh, okay. That's, that makes sense,
Yeah.
And I had to apologize to my wife later because she's like, when I tell you something, it's for a reason. You just got to trust me. But give me some credit. It's 4:45 in the morning. I'm half awake and I just want to go start my day. We came to learn, and it's one of our guests apparently struggles with sleep apnea and had fallen asleep in the bathroom on the toilet for about a half hour. And my wife, she at first thought it was one of our kids because this woman, God bless her, she was kind of like laughing like a little kid in the bathroom. My wife originally thought that it was one of our kids. So she had gone upstairs to see which kid was in the bathroom.
Sure.
And, they were both in their beds. So,
Naturally.
You can't make this stuff up, I suppose. I figured it's a good what the hell type story. So if you're thinking about being an Airbnb host, be prepared for the occasional weird stuff.
I mean, especially, so obviously your Airbnb is within the confines of your own home.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a shared space, they call it, yeah.
Got it. Okay, because I'm thinking maybe those instances wouldn't happen quite as often if they were separate spaces.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good story.
Most guests don't mind a shared bathroom. We do have a second bath out here by the office where I'm doing this podcast at, but typically that's the bathroom our guests will use. But yeah, for 30 minutes, my wife was just trying to figure out, what do I do? Should I knock on the door, wake them up, see if they're all right?
Oh my gosh, I feel like I have so many questions now. And especially, I mean, being the traveler that I am, we've stayed in a lot of Airbnbs. We haven't done a shared space yet. I mean, that is, wow. Like, kudos to you, honestly, for being so open and vulnerable and willing to share in your home. I mean, you're willing to invite people that you don't know into your home.
And nobody's axe murdered us yet. Not a single one.
Yet. I mean, what a great way to meet new people. I mean, wow, I have so many questions. We'll save that for another episode.
And my parents, we actually help them become hosts, so that's how they pay like half of their mortgage each month. And the thing is, we are really relationship junkies, so it works really, really well for us because 90% of the time when someone is coming into our house to stay, they know it's a shared space and they kind of like that the host is there, then they can talk to them, meet them. So we have learned so much just meeting people from all over the world, actually, from Germany, all kinds of places.
I love that. That's amazing. That is definitely a topic that people don't really talk about very often. I've heard a lot of stories, Airbnb stories, and know people that have Airbnbs, but I've never talked to anybody about the shared space idea for Airbnb. So yeah, let's plan on another episode. We'll talk about that and being relationship junkies. So I love it.
Right.
John, I appreciate you coming on here today. This is a really great conversation, and I know people will take some value out of it. So how can people get in touch with you? How can they connect with you? Social medias, website, things like that.
Sure. Well, the best place to reach us online is either via Create Socially or Romeo Network. Both of them are optimized enough. You can just Google them, or by all means, of course, just go to the websites. I will say probably one of the best ways to reach me is going on to createsocially.com, scheduling a discovery session.
Okay.
There's a nice little convenient button right there that you can click to set up a discovery call. There's no charge for a discovery call, and anyone can schedule one, whether they are thinking about buying something from us or not. We are serial networkers, lines right up with the relationship side of things. So always looking for power partners, which if you're not familiar with the term, it's just if you are listening and you have a business and most of your clients are small business owners, but maybe you're in insurance, I would love to talk to you about how I can help your clients improve the marketing side of what they do in a holistic type of way. Just as a quick example. So I'd love to speak to you. Of course, you can always just give me a call as well, and the number's on the website, but I'll share it here, 717-683-5343. So whatever your pleasure, or you email me, John, John, at createsocially.com. Lots of ways to reach us.
Perfect. I love it. John, thank you so much. I am so excited to release this episode, and thank you all for listening. And if you're listening, if you are on YouTube, thank you for watching. And yes, of course, we are on YouTube now, so check us out there. Subscribe to the channel, like the videos, and leave us a review for the podcast. It's how we grow here at What the Nell. So thank you all so much. And as always, I will catch you on the next one.
To learn more about how to tell your story, connect with Nell at enTICEingmedia.com. That's ENTICEING media.com. Thanks for listening to the What the Nell podcast.